All right. Whoa. It's loud. That was loud. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for being here tonight. My name's Ted Wheeler. I'm the mayor of the city of Portland. I'm here with my colleagues Nick Fish, Amanda Fritz. I know Chloe Udaly and Dan Saltzman are most likely on their way. We appreciate everybody taking time out of your busy schedules tonight. I want to frame the conversation just a little bit. This is your time, and so I'm going to be brief. But I want to start off by just explaining the budget situation that we have in the city of Portland. We have what I would describe as a challenging budget. The costs at the city of Portland are going up much. One moment. All right, how are we now? So we have a fairly challenging budget situation insofar as costs continue to rise at a much faster rate than our revenues. We have finite resources, and so that puts us in a position where we have to make trade-offs in the budget. I start with the assumption that virtually every program that is currently in the city budget has a constituency behind it. So what I hope we do is talk about community values, what's important to you, not necessarily just a specific program or two that you're here to support, but tell us about what you want the community to be, how you want it to look, what things, what values you prioritize. That's very helpful to us as a council as we seek to make the budget balance. In the near term, there are a couple of values that I've asked the Bureau directors to consider. First of all, any efficiencies that they could realize in the budget, so ways that we could deliver services better or more cost effectively or more efficiently to the public we serve. I've asked for realignments. In other words, how can people be working together in teams or working across bureaus to potentially be able to deliver services better or more costly or cost effectively. Any other improvements, technological investments that could help us be more effective in delivery of service and more efficient with our dollars. And I will tell you point blank, I have not taken new revenues off the table. New revenues continues to be an option that we're considering. My personal priorities in this process are to protect vulnerable populations. I know many people know that my top priorities are homelessness, housing, improving and making our police bureau more accountable, and finding ways to invest in infrastructure like roads, parks infrastructure, and civic infrastructure that we have struggled over many, many years to adequately fund. We're looking for pathways to strategic implementation. I know there's a number of groups here advocating for community centers, for example. Maybe the conversation we should be having is a longer-term conversation about the future of community centers. Do we do fewer community centers with more services? Do we do smaller community centers in the neighborhoods that are state-of-the-art and more energy efficient and more operationally efficient? Or do we stick with what we've got? I think there's a longer-term conversation that revolves around strategy. And I'd like to hear your thoughts with regard to strategic direction, not just for the Parks Bureau, but for all the bureaus. We need to find strategies to align revenues and costs, and you heard me talk about that up front. Equity in the delivery of services is very important to me as I craft the proposed budget. I don't just mean geographical equity, but I also mean equity based on race, based on ethnicity, based on gender, and you're going to see a significant commitment in this budget to equity. So again, I would encourage people to think big picture about these issues as you come to the microphone. I want to address one issue right off the bat. I had a couple of conversations outside and in the foyer here. I know there's some people here who wanted to express their concerns about the officer-involved shooting that took place last week. I understand the significance and the importance of that issue to the community and what it means to this community. That is a conversation that, while related to the budget, I want you to know this is not the totality of that conversation. And as I have said, as police commissioner as well as the mayor, I really want us to wait until the facts come out in that situation. But I wanted to... All right, then you can speculate all you want tonight. I'm just telling you. You don't want to wait for the facts. You don't want to, okay, that's your choice. You can speculate.
There it is. So there are a lot of people here who want to speak tonight, and we understand this is a really emotional issue, and everybody here understands this. For the sake and the respect of all of your neighbors who are here to speak, as well as yourselves, please let's get to the point of providing testimony, okay? So they've heard you. They've heard you. Now let's get to the folks who want to speak at the microphone up here tonight. We'll give you the 2 minutes as soon as we can get started, so let's get going. Did you have more, sir?
Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. So does the whole city council. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm just going to spend a few minutes going over the process for this meeting today. My name is Sylvia Chiborowski, and I'll be helping to facilitate along with Jean Lawson. So again, the purpose of today's meeting is to hear your input on the city budget. We are going to have people speak through a lottery system. So if you do want to speak today, make sure that you received a ticket, and we'll be calling numbers up, and Jean will explain that process a little bit more later. There are a lot more people in the room today than we will have time to hear speak. So we do have a wall up here where you can provide written testimony. There are sheets of paper in a bucket. You can write your ideas, write them down, and the city council will read through all of those. There are also testimony cards at the sign-in station so that you can provide your ideas there as well. There are a lot of groups in the room today, and we do want to make sure that we hear from at least a member or two from each of those groups. And we do have the lottery system, so if somebody from your group does get called, we encourage you to give your ticket to the person that you would like to speak on your behalf to make sure that that person is heard. And I just want to kind of get a sense of the groups in the room. I see Care Not Cops. Okay, thank you. And thank you for that, but we're not looking for support right now. I just want to list the groups. I see the Children's Museum, Locally Grown, the Fulton Pump Park, and the Democratic Socialists. Are there other groups? What's that? So can you write these down? Jean, can you write these down? So Save Our Centers, Support Small Business, Universal Representation Now, East Portland, and Fully Fund Open and Accountable Elections.
I didn't hear the last one. Sylvia, what was the last one you said?
Fully Fund Open and Accountable Elections. Okay. Okay, okay. So midway, and I see Save Our Fountains.
What's the group way up at the top?
Yeja.
What is it?
Yeja, like Youth Environmental Advocates.
Oh, good. Elders in Action and Got it. Multnomah Youth Commission. Okay. Okay, Elders in Action.
So midway through, we'll do a check-in to make sure that we've heard from each of the groups, and if not, we'll address that at that time. Green hops. Okay. And also,
Community Alliance.
thank you. Got it. Okay.
Okay, we'll get it. I don't have it written.
Great.
You guys, we're going to stop about halfway through just to check and make sure we've reached you. So,
I also want to point out, we have closed captioning available, but it's only on this side of the screen. So if you need closed captioning, you can sit in the chairs back here. I apologize that it didn't work on both sides. We also have interpretation available today. We have an ASL interpreter here. We also have a Spanish interpreter. Would the Spanish interpreter please come up for a moment?
Two Spanish interpreters tonight, and headphones are available behind the reception table. Tenemos servicio de interpretación al español. Si gusta llevar algunos audífonos, se encuentran aquí atrás de la mesa de recepción. Gracias.
Thank you. In a moment, we'll go over the lottery system. We're also going to invite any elected officials to speak. We would invite you to sit up at this time. Are there any other elected officials in the room? Okay. Okay. And Mayor, did you have any other words before we begin?
Nope, we're good to go.
Okay, so I'm just going to go over our ground rules for the meeting today. Is this working? Hello? So hello? Is this working now? Okay. Okay, so as everybody makes their comments today, please treat everyone with respect. There are a lot of different points of view in the room. Treating everyone with respect also means not booing when other people are making comments. We ask you to honor the time limit, 2 minutes per speaker. We need you to honor that time limit so that we can have a fair process that allows as many people to speak as possible. It's also important that there be no clapping or booing or verbal expressions of support because it's hard for others to hear when you're clapping. So if you do support what's being said, raise your thumb. If you're with a group and that your representative is speaking, you can raise your thumb or stand up to show your support as well. As you're making your points, try to avoid repetition. If you agree with what was said previously, just say that you agreed with that and then make other points that are important to you. Please also avoid side conversation because it can be hard to hear in this room, and make sure that you silence your cell phones before we begin. And I'll have Jean explain the lottery process.
So we've got one working mic. So as most of you may have seen, I've got 8 numbers up there with a line in between. We have 4 chairs here at the table and 4 right behind. What we'd like you to do after our elected official has spoken is we'd like you folks to come up, and if you're in that first group, sit at the table, and if you're not, if you're in the second group, sit right behind them. So we're going to be doing that periodically. We also are going to break a couple times in the meeting and just get a sense of what some of the comments are that are on the wall, because we know not everybody can speak. So again, everybody, thank you very much for doing this. Also, if you were here last time and you spoke last time and your number is up there, please look at everybody here who wants to speak and please pass your ticket to somebody else, okay? Is that good? All right. And finally, as we move through this, again, at about halfway mark, we're going to just check and make sure that all the major groups that are here have had a chance, have had somebody up here to speak. If you haven't, make sure you've identified who you want to come, because at that point, we're going to pause and ask someone to come from each of those groups. Okay? Everybody ready? Pardon? Oh, good point. How many folks do we have, folks with young children, like got to get to bed early children? We've got 1, 2, way up at the top, 3. Okay, so, and, yeah, but she's going to be your spokesperson, isn't she? Yeah, she's special. Sorry. The museum already let us know that their spokesperson is one of the children, so you're ready, right? Okay. So with that, why don't we then start with the young folks, and if you are elderly or disabled and really cannot sit here throughout the whole evening, let us know as well. Okay? Oh, okay. All right. Okay, so those with kids, come on down, sit in the back. We've got 4 chairs, and we've got 4 of you. Actually, why don't you guys wait
right here?
so that we do it when we're doing the groups, okay?
I'd be happy to have them by me if you want to have them line up.
All right.
Should I go? Hi. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners, for holding this budget hearing. I'm Alyssa Kenny-Geyer. I represent House District 46, which is parts of Southeast and Northeast Portland. I will try to talk really fast because on behalf of my constituents, I hear a lot about a lot of these issues. And as a state official, I want to work with you on a vision of a city that works for all. And with that said, I want to thank you for your particularly strong statements, Mr. Mayor, and the rest of you for reaffirming our city as being a sanctuary city and being a welcoming place for all of our new residents to our community. So thank you. First and foremost, as you know, I am Chair of Human Services and Housing. Housing is one of the #1 crises, not only in Portland, but around the state. And so I hope that you continue to partner with us at the state and prioritize money for shelters, for transitional housing, for long-term affordable housing, for supportive housing, that is housing with mental health and behavioral health services. Thank you for your work. And I would be remiss if I didn't thank you also for working with us on passing a bill in the last legislative session, and I want to make sure everyone knows about this, that is going to refer to the ballot in November of 2018, a constitutional amendment to change the Constitution, state constitution, to make affordable housing bonding more flexible. That will stretch the dollars that you all as taxpayers pass, the $258 million bond. One of the ways that we can help the city stretch the very limited resources is to pass that measure in November 2018. Thank you for your work on that, and voters, please vote for that in November 2018. Next, I want to speak as a member of the Early Childhood and Family Supports Committee. Mr. Mayor knows, having served on the Portland Children's Levy with me, I am passionate about early childhood. Housing is very expensive, childcare is very expensive, and in that regard, I want to say for the parks budget, I think it's incredibly important that we keep our community centers open and that we have the preschools that we support. We need to get out ahead of issues and not always be trying to catch up. Next, as a member of the Healthcare Committee, I want to say how important it is that we expand our access to mental health and addictions. With regard to your police budget, I do think that it is incredibly important that we direct our law enforcement resources on ongoing trauma-informed training, including nonviolent communication, de-escalation techniques, and racial bias awareness. Next, these are all citywide issues. I next want to direct my attention to some of the issues that affect my Southeast Portland district, Southeast, a little bit of Northeast. Transportation, the ongoing issue of 82nd Avenue belonging to the state has been really hard for the livability, and as we increase our density, it's really important that we do an interjurisdictional transfer from ODOT to PBOT. We have a letter that Michael Dembro and I are going to be sending to you this week to try to facilitate that happening. In terms of East Portland Action Plan, I'm a member of that committee because part of my district intersects with the East Portland Action Plan area, and several things are very important to that. One is making sure that office gets its proportionate fair share of funding, that we have overhead for accommodation services like translation and childcare services. This is one of the most effective meetings I go to monthly, and I want to make sure that it's accessible to everyone. Finally, the Gateway Green Education and Economic Development Center is a really important for both K through 12, manufacturing and technical education, as well as incubator businesses. Lastly, I just want to say that I know that I have not taken anything off the table. I keep wanting to add. I'm very in support of revenue increase. The idea that's been introduced of an income tax of starting with 2% on incomes for 250,000 individuals, 500K a year for a joint, progressively increasing to 8% for those who have individual returns of $1 million, joint returns of $2 million. This would generate $114 million a year. It is ridiculous that in a city with the kind of wealth that we have, that we're having to fight for little pieces of the pie. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you, Representative
and
Kenny
you
Guyer.
guys, so just a reminder, it's a wonderful thing for them to get your encouragement, but it uses time, and we want to get through as many of you as possible. So thumbs up. Thumbs up, let them know that you agree when you agree. You guys, you have 2 minutes apiece. Our timekeeper right here, Allison, will give you a 30-second warning with the yellow card and then give you the red card. And in deference and respect to everybody else, please cut off at 2 minutes. All right, go for it.
Thank you so much for having us tonight. I'm a parent of 2 young girls who are currently enrolled at Hillside's Community Center's preschool program. Hillside's program draws families from all throughout the Northwest and Southwest neighborhoods, from Slabtown, where I live, to the Pearl, Waterfront, Forest Heights, Southwest Hills, and on. Here's a sampling of the families at Hillside Community. I put this with our testimony. You can see they live all throughout the Northwest and Southwest area. We depend on Hillside. It's our community. If you take away our community center, where will our community go? There is not another community center within a 3-mile radius, and the nearest community center on the west side is more than 6 miles away. That's a 20-minute drive without traffic. And let's be honest, when does that happen? You can see on this second map how far away it is for us and our families all the way down. In a day and age when we need to know our neighbors, Hillside brings us closer together. When my family moved to Portland 3 years ago, we met the majority of our family friends at Hillside.
Yes.
My daughter is forming lifelong friendships at Hillside, as am I. I don't know a family in our neighborhood down the hill who hasn't benefited from the educational and recreational activities Hillside offers. Whether it's summer camps, the after-school program, or youth and adult sports, Hillside provides resources that in many cases we can't find anywhere else in our Northwest neighborhoods. And this especially rings true for quality, part-time preschool programs in our neighborhood. We have few options within our area, and as it is at Hillside, we pay the highest tuition of any Portland Parks and Rec preschool program. We do this because we believe in how important this program is, and we subsidize it and help ensure its overall success. Closing Hillside Community Center would not only hurt the children in our area, its effects on the Portland Parks and preschool program would ripple throughout our city. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Good evening. My name is Lauren Tyers. I have a 6-year-old daughter, Alice, and son, Jack, age 4. When we first started at Hillside Community Center Preschool, we were renting an apartment in the Northwest neighborhood. We have since moved to Kenton in North Portland, and yet I still drive my son 25 minutes to Hillside for preschool. I drive because Hillside Community Center provides the best preschool program for my child at a price we can afford, and because it is our community. I am a waitress, and my husband is a carpenter, and this preschool program is the best quality for the price that we can find in the city. Other decent and affordable preschool options near where we live now in Kenton are either on long wait lists or co-ops. Community centers are for all neighbors, all taxpayers, people with backyards and people without, people who can afford something more and people who can't, those of us who live across the street and those of us that live in the greater city neighborhood. The diversity at Hillside might surprise some of you. There are children with whom English is not their first language. We have families that speak Japanese, Chinese, Spanish, German, Russian, and Czech. The statistics do not reflect the true diversity of our center. These families bring world cultures and countless different perspectives to our children. Hillside brings together people from all economic backgrounds, racial backgrounds, cultural backgrounds, and families with disabilities in their households. In a time and in a world where we are becoming more insular and more isolated, we all gather in the Hillside parking lot at drop-off and pickup to commune, relate, support, share, and commiserate. When I walk in the door at Hillside Community Center, the people know my face, they know my name, they know my children, and most importantly to me, they know that I can't always pay on time, but they make room for me because they care about my family and want us there. We are not the only family with this story. Hillside is where we all belong. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. I'm Hui Ong, Executive Director of Opal Environmental Justice Oregon. Opal organizes low-income people and people of color through our Bus Riders Unite and our Youth Environmental Justice Alliance. That's when you're supposed to say, "Yeja." I'm here to defend Youth Pass. Thousands of students of color at Park Rose and David Douglas High School started receiving Youth Pass this year after years of inequitable funding. These are the youth most at risk of dropping out, and Youth Pass helps them graduate, support their families, run errands, and get to the doctor. You have heard from Yeja about Youth Pass. Each of you has spoken to the importance of the program while campaigning and in public meetings. It's clear to us that you understand this program is important. It would be unconscionable to offer these students this program for the first time this year and then take it away. Thanks to Opal's advocacy in Salem, in 2019, TriMet will receive new revenue from the state transportation package specifically for student transit. At that time, it will make sense for the city to no longer fund the program, but not until then. A year without the program would lead to more truancy, worse graduation rates, and some youth buying cars and never becoming the bus riders of the future. I am here to ask you to make a firm commitment to our strategy to secure funding from TriMet for this program. This strategic commitment requires that you fund the program this year and support our efforts to move the program to TriMet in next year's budget cycle. You're hearing from many community members about priorities today. Please do not disregard the youth whose future is at stake. A budget is a moral document. You're all said repeatedly that you support equity in East Portland. Now, show us, commit to funding Youth Pass in the coming budget year. We will also be submitting testimony on behalf of the Transit Justice Alliance, an alliance made up of frontline leadership, made up of Apano, Opal, the Native American Youth and Family Center, and the Community Cycling Center. The alliance also has broad support from the Latino Network, the Street Trust, Oregon Walks, and the Oregon Food Bank. So I hope you hear the youth today.
Thank you.
You did good. Mic's off. Mic's off.
Thank you to those of you who use your thumbs to show support throughout these speakers. Commissioner Udaley has a couple of invited speakers she'd like to request to come up.
Thank you. I would like to call Francisco Rodriguez and Kolini Fusatua to the table, please. And while they are making their way to the table, I want to say good evening, and thank you for being here. And thank you for affording me the privilege of inviting these two people to the table to speak. As we have seen in previous budget sessions, some communities are able to turn out a large number of constituents. It's not necessarily reflective of the urgency of the issue. And I wanted to make sure that we heard from at least two individuals tonight speaking to two of my top priorities. First, Francisco Rodriguez, who will be giving testimony on universal representation, and Kolini Fusatua, who will be talking about East Portland Neighborhood Office and equitable funding. Welcome.
Thank you.
And before you begin, I'm just going to call out the next lottery or the lottery tickets so that you can get ready and sit up here in the queue. So we have 654. These are the last three numbers on your ticket. 654, 503, 853, 606, 881-630-663 and 450. If you have that number, just go ahead and sit in one of these chairs. Go ahead.
Hi, so my name is Francisco Rodriguez. I'm president of Pueblo Unido, and I also sit on the Community Involvement Committee for Multnomah County. A little bit about myself. I work out in East County for the Reynolds School District. I tutor children one-on-one and give them the support that they need to finish out the day in school. I also help run a food pantry for low-income families in our district. And aside from all of this, roughly about a year ago, I was one of the first DACA recipients in Oregon to be detained by ICE. So here I am. It was a pretty scary experience to have to face. And I'm glad that throughout all that, I was released within 24 hours of being detained. There was a lot of support and outcry from community, flooded ICE phones and everything, and led to me being released the next day. Unfortunately, after I came back to my community and saw that I wasn't the only one being detained and picked up, there was tons of families in our neighborhoods being picked up without anyone noticing what was going on with them. Families were too scared to leave their houses. That whole week, we had to deliver emergency food boxes to families that couldn't come out to the food pantries just because of the fear of going out into the street. So I'm here to see how it is that we can work together to try to get a universal representation for people facing removal proceedings and who need legal representation. There's a lack of legal representation for them. In a criminal court, everyone is appointed a lawyer, even if they don't have one, and immigration has none of that. So look forward to seeing how we can work together to get this going.
So, thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. Thank you for having me up here. My name is Kolini Fusitua. I am from the Tongan American Resource Committee, representing the Tongan community. I want to share what we're here for. We're here to support budget for Office of Neighborhood Involvement. And within the Office of Neighborhood Involvement, they're funding East Portland Neighborhood Office. I myself have had the pleasure of working with the East Portland Neighborhood Office last year. They happen to be a fiscal agent for the first Tonga Day here in Portland, Oregon. Commissioner Fritz was there. Thank you for being present. She witnessed the diversity that we have in Portland. We talk about diversity and so forth. We have Pacific Island. Here in this building, have Pacific Island that made history. They made history here in the past. So we need to be included. We want to have more funding to support East Portland Neighborhood Office, because when I started working with them, they were not just our fiscal agent. They became our secretary, our financial advice, our timekeeper, our scheduler. They were everything. So that's why we need to increase their funding, because when we're there, all this American system and so forth, this is all new for us. So it takes time for us to work with them. It takes time for them to understand us. And we want you guys to value our values. Our value means something for us. And East Portland Neighborhood Office value our value, and hope you guys will do the same. Thank you.
So we've got the first set of 4. There should be another set of 4 that are ready to sit right back here. Oh, we got one of them.
Go ahead. Good evening, Mayor Wheeler and council members. My name is Gail Hofnagel. I'm the Vice President of SMILE and the Chairman of Friends of Selwood Community Center, which is a subcommittee of SMILE. Well, here we are again. My hope for this year is that we can finally solve the ongoing problem of Selwood Community Center once and for all. For the past several years, we've been stuck in the same pattern. The city threatens our center with closure, we rally the neighborhood and come to these budget hearings, you give us a reprieve, and we're saved until the next budget cycle when we start this dance all over again. So why does this keep happening? Somehow the Park Bureau is still under the illusion that mega centers are preferable over small centers. Yet all 4 centers affected by the budget cuts this year have the strong backing of their neighborhoods and user groups. These centers are providing services that no existing facility could absorb. I think that's why we continue to be funded. You know that we serve a purpose. After the Park Bureau has systematically deferred major maintenance on Selwood for the past 20-plus years, we're told that the building needs too many repairs. Whose fault is that? This negligence is not limited to just our center. It's rampant throughout the system. And yet Selwood Community Center continues excelling at the same job that was envisioned in 1924. The community center and the neighborhood still persists. The $15 million for Mount Scott's Community Center's renovation tells me that the Park Bureau is quite capable of coming up with money for repairs and improvements if and when they choose to do so. It would take a small fraction of the $15 million to improve Selwood, Fulton Park, Woodstock, and Hillside Community Centers. As to prioritizing underserved populations for funding from the Park Bureau, it's probably a good idea, it sounds good, it probably wins votes for you, but inclusiveness is not the same as exclusiveness. The majority of tax-paying Portlanders would be horrified to learn that they're not targeted for services. Shouldn't the slogan be recreation for all and not recreation for underserved groups only? Thank you. And let's have your people talk to our people this year and solve it.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Downing. And like you, I am a public official. As you get closer. But I don't envy you your job, and you have a hellacious task in front of you. But I did want to speak for a moment in support of small-scale community centers. You may know, of course, that the City of Portland is a municipal corporation of which you are the officers. You maintain and build the functions of the city, the pipes, the pavement, the police and fire services. But the most important element of that magical thing we call the City of Portland is the connection that almost 600,000 people have with this place, the entity for which you are entrusted with its management. Parks is the bureau that has a primary function to sustaining that sense of community. And community centers themselves, in particular, are the place where people get out of their comfort zones and meet those people that they have never seen before. This contributes to the most fundamentally to the creation of community connectedness that allows people to feel rooted and connected to a place from which that is the foundation that builds support for your policies, your plans, and your visions. Closing neighborhood community centers is a blow to that essential civitas that allows the city to function properly. Have you been to the Selwood Moreland neighborhood lately? If not, you may have missed the over 1,700 residential units that have been built there since 2015. Increasingly, density is happening in the neighborhood, and infill that's supported by the neighborhood as well as by and fulfills the city plans. We have 2.8 miles of mixed-use corridors that are awaiting further development, bringing even more people into that neighborhood, which will probably be driven by the preponderance of no parking apartments and condos that are being built there. On the presumption that people are living in these places without cars, they're traveling by transit. So the Parks Bureau estimation about connectedness to the city when you close these small centers flies in the face of other planning goals for the city. If you choose to close Selwood, Hillside, Woodstock, and other small centers, then those desiring to use these facilities are off to Mount Scott, which is a 40-minute bus ride, not exactly the 15-minute neighborhood envisioned by BPS, right? Closing neighborhood community centers is at cross purposes to many city goals and tears at the fabric of the community. We urge you to keep community in the center, keep centers in the communities.
Thank you, everyone. Remember to use thumbs up.
Hello, my name is Donna Hayes, and the title of this is No More Money. You can't be ready to increase the money of the police without moving bad apples first. When cops are added, there must be cops to mentor the new people. Are you actually going to bring these shiny-faced rookies to error-making, trigger-happy, head-spinning, messed-up cops? If you like understanding of what I'm talking about, allow me to give you a history straight from your open data of the Police Bureau. This is what came out of the first of the East Precinct, Andrew Hurst. He was involved in one shooting using an AR-15 on February of 2013. He didn't get training until 6 months later in August to use that AR-15. 4 years later, his training paid off. He murdered Quantis Hayes, unarmed teen, in February 9, 2017. Was this an anniversary or just a present for Black History Month? And you want to use the money to hire more without having to train the few to do what they need to do instead of letting them do things untrained? 2010, Officer Ryan Lipton, I want you to know I'm gonna mess up people's names, an 8-year veteran used a beanbag on Aaron Campbell, which led Campbell to duck behind a car and trigger-happy Officer Frashour, an 8-year veteran, fired his AR-15. Does 8 years really give you a veteran status? Do you want these cops as mentors to a bunch of shiny-faced rookies? In the same year, Keaton Otis shooting, that's too many cops to name. If you believe the commentary, the Keaton was a bad boy, but the community know better. What we know is that the group of Keystone cops were shooting each other while murdering that young man. Do you really want these cops as mentors to shiny-faced rookies? Here is one, I'm almost finished. Here's one in the same year. An intoxicated transit named Jack Collins, 58, shot by Officer Walters and a 13-year vet. He couldn't handle a drunk man. Do you really want him to mentor shiny-faced rookies?
Thank you.
Okay, it's
Thank
just
you
the last paragraph.
Just a moment.
P.S. Community policing is a dumb idea. Nobody wants the cops walking around their community. We fear for our lives with them around. And don't trust them all their lives. I believe the beginning of trust will be with accountability and real removal of the bad mentors, receiving of some complete training rookies and not some clueless ones we've received over the years. Come back from you and not the people in our neighborhood. If you give the money to shiny-faced rookies to work under sociopath, create more sociopaths. Think hard on this decision. I have an answer. The answer is no.
Thank you. Thank you all, please.
You guys,
please.
Every time
we need to move to the next speaker.
Donna did a great job speaking. Allow others to speak now. Donna did a great job. Respect that. Now let others speak. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor Wheeler and Council. My name's Judy Farmer. I'm a board member of the Friends of Peninsula Park Rose Garden and a volunteer there for the past 5 years. Proposals such as turning off public fountains, closing community centers, and reducing maintenance capacity are not a solution to the many challenges that the city faces. These cuts will add only more challenges, leading to the deterioration and decay of significant public assets. It is ironic that in the city that values equity, these cuts will have the greatest impact on our low-income and diverse communities. This is simply unacceptable. The proposed cuts are a serious concern to our Friends group and other groups across the city because they undermine the hard work of our park volunteers and private support from donors is at risk. In 2012, just 6 short years ago, the Rose Garden was a neglected, weedy embarrassment, mostly due to park's deferred maintenance. With a monumental effort that included hundreds of hours and hundreds of volunteers, our Friends group has restored the garden to its former glory. Today, the garden is thriving, attracting more Portlanders and tourists every year. Donor and volunteer support is predicated on our ongoing commitment to preserve and protect this historic gem. Shutting the garden's fountain, the focal point and very heart of the garden, would be a drastic step, creating a concrete crater of neglect and potentially providing a massive canvas for graffiti. Please find a workable solution for our public fountains that doesn't negate the significant contributions that parks volunteers make, and worse, cause our donors and volunteers to withdraw their support. Please stop the cycle of ongoing reductions to the park's budget. Please support our award-winning park system and provide adequate funding so that all Portlanders can enjoy these safe and beautiful places.
Thank you. And let's have our next speakers come up. And as you speak, remember to look at our timekeeper here, who will remind you when you have 30 seconds and when your time is up. And I think that we haven't brought up the young speaker for the Children's Museum, who might need to go to bed soon.
Were you in this next group? No, in this group or on that group? Okay, great. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Hello, good evening. My name is Alexis Moyer. I'm 19 years old. I currently live in Southeast Portland. I'm a member of the Multnomah Youth Commission. The Multnomah Youth Commission, also known as the MYC, is the official youth policy body for the city of Portland, Multnomah County. We're made up to 42 young people between 13 and 21 years old who come from diverse and often unrepresented communities across the city and the county. I am here on behalf of the Multnomah Youth Commission in partnership with Opal Youth Environmental Justice Alliance to ask the City Council to commit to providing transitional youth pass funding for the 2018-2019 school year. I'm a chair of the Sustainability Committee on the MYC, and in 2008, my committee worked in partnership with former Mayor Tom Potter on securing the first youth pass program at the Portland Public School District. And in 2016, we and our partner Opal Youth Environmental Justice Alliance have expanded the outreach of Youth Pass to David Douglas and Parkrose High Schools. We have a history of working in partnership with the city to do great things, and we want to find a solution that works for all of us. We have strategized alternative funding routes, such as influencing TriMet to fund Youth Pass through HB 2017, but that funding is not available until 2019. For the past 10 years, Youth Pass has been a lifeline to opportunities. It has created bridges connecting youth to communities that they have never had access to before. I know this firsthand as a former Portland Public High School student who grew up in a single-parent household that would not have been able to afford the cost of a transit pass for four transit passes for my siblings and I, who were all in high school at the same time. As our partners we need the City of Portland to continue working with us to actively support transitional funding for the next school year and for beyond. We really look forward to partnering with y'all in the future. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jody Folkdahl-Ippolito, and I'm a resident and a teacher in East Portland. And I think that I share the sentiments with a lot of people in this room that this is ridiculous that we have to beg for funding every year. We don't have to partake in this farce that there isn't enough, that we need to buckle down and cut services that we all depend on. There's unprecedented wealth in Portland, and there's not a corner of the city that their average resident doesn't feel left out. Condos are popping up in every neighborhood, yet the average rent for a one-bedroom in Portland has gone from $934 a month in 2008 up to $1,366 this year in March. The minimum wage in Portland is only $12 an hour. That's less than $25,000 a year for a 40-hour-a-week employment. yet we see tremendous wealth. There's over 21,000 individual taxpayers in Multnomah County alone who make an average of over $400,000 a year. People are frustrated and people are struggling to make ends meet in a city that works so well for those on the top. But we can fund the things that are important to Portlanders. Community centers, parks, job programs, childcare, housing, programs like EPNO that benefit and make a difference in so many people's lives. This is all possible by implementing an income tax beginning with just 2% on incomes of individuals who make a salary of over $250,000, all the way working up to 8% for individual incomes over $1 million. This tiered tax structure would generate $114 million for Portland. A different, better future is possible, and we don't have to do this song and dance every year. We don't have to settle for a trickle-down economy that doesn't work. We can redistribute the wealth and build our society and programs that benefit all people, whether you make $400,000 a year or whether you make $10,000 a year. We can house people, feed people, and enrich people's lives with a tax on the wealthiest residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's move on. Remember to show support with your thumbs, please.
Okay. You guys, just remember, every time you do that, you're taking time away from a speaker.
We can go ahead over here. Want to speak?
Can you hold my paper? Okay. Okay. Good evening. My name is Amy Brown, and I'm here to show my support and share my thoughts regarding the Portland Children's Museum and the proposal that they start to pay, over $120,000 a year for their utilities. My family, I just wanted to share, frequents the museum through their Access Play program, which is a wonderful program that they developed to provide access to the museum for people experiencing disabilities and their families. They do this, one of the ways, by closing the museum to allow a calmer, more tranquil environment that's less crowded. Particularly, this helps my family. I frequent the museum by myself with my 2 children, and my son, who's on the autism spectrum, he cannot attend the museum and enjoy their wonderful facilities in a normal environment. He very much wants to engage with all the exhibits, but was debilitatingly overwhelmed when we try to visit on a typical day, and so having this Access Play program available is very important to us. It allows him the same opportunities that other children get to be social and interact with other children and experience the wonderful exhibits that the museum has to offer. Because the Portland Parks and Recreation Department currently covers the museum's utilities, they're allowed to put their own revenue and their own resources toward these wonderful programs and other programs that they provide that allow other people access to the museum who couldn't normally afford it. And if the budget proposal is accepted and the museum is suddenly expected to pay for these utilities, many families like my own would be negatively impacted. The museum provides wonderful opportunities to everyone in the community and betters our city, makes it more livable for families, and that's a wonderful thing. Thank you.
My turn. Dear Mayor Wheeler and Portland City Commissioners, my name is Clement Sazanoff and I'm 7 years old. I'm here tonight to represent all the children who can't attend this meeting because it's past their bedtime. I would like to deliver 31 letters that the museum received from the families across Portland who are upset that the museum might have to pay more money for lights, heat, and water. I'm upset too. These letters are from families who depend on the museum for a place to play and learn. Some letters are from families who can't afford the museum, but they have a special pass that lets them in, come play week after week. Other letters are from families with children who have special needs. They rely on the museum as a safe place to play where people accept their differences. Other letters are from families who came to Portland from another country, and they love playing at the museum because they feel welcome. I like playing at the museum because there are so many awesome and fun things to do and new friends to make. Thank you for providing the money that keeps the museum's lights on, keeps the building warm, and provides water we play within Waterworks. Please don't make the museum pay for lights, heat, or water because they need their money to pay for exhibits and programs we love so much. Thank you for listening, and here are all the letters I promised. Sincerely, Clement Sazanoff.
Thank you. Why don't you guys?
Okay. There's a lot of letters.
And I'll read a few more numbers that are still missing from this group. 601, 572, 377, 661, and 502.
Good. My name is Christine Appleberry, and thank you to the mayor and commissioners for hosting this meeting. I'm here to talk about Fulton. It used to be a small Southwest community center, but the Parks Department closed the community center 5 years ago in 2012 budget. It often is still called a community center, but I'd just like to clarify that it is a rental facility only. There are no parks programs there. The people who do use the building provide the services of a community center, because it's a rental facility, Parks doesn't track the number of people who use it, but the renters do. And we have a combined, of all the renters, 36,000 visits per year. If using the exaggerated cost applied to Fulton in the proposed Parks budget on page 169 of $227,000, that works out to a cost of $6 per visit. This is totally consistent with other PP&R recreational facilities. Using the more realistic cost provided by the City Budget Office on page 18 of their review of Parks budget, it would be $2 a visit. It's one of the best bargains in town that Parks has. And if you look at the mission statement of Parks and consider the return on the investment, it's a huge benefit to Parks and the city and the people who use it. The renters at Fulton are the French Immersion School. Monday and Tuesday there's a volleyball drop-in game, the Hoshu Dojo, Renma Kendo, Tai Chi, the family contra dance, and contra dancing and Israeli folk dancing. And these groups draw from a regional area, not just Southwest Portland. The other, pardon me? Where, oh, there's the, okay. The other thing I would like to add that if Parks closes Fulton as a rental facility and closes Hillside as a community center, that leaves one community center for the entire west side of Portland, and that is creating a huge inequity.
Good evening. My name is Peggy Moretti. I'm the executive director of a nonprofit called Restore Oregon. Our mission is to preserve and pass forward the authentic historic fabric of Portland and other communities across the state. And on behalf of our members and volunteers, I'm urging City Council to approve the very paltry amount of $80,000 to start the long overdue update of our historic resources inventory. There are numerous reasons this makes very good sense, but we'll boil it down to two for this evening. Good city planning requires good data. Portland is grappling with important decisions that will reshape our city for good or bad. How will we balance growth, density, and housing without sacrificing livability, without bulldozing the very homes, buildings, and neighborhoods that give Portland its authentic character and sense of place? How will we determine what to keep and what to let go? Those planning decisions must be made very carefully based on good, complete, up-to-date data and a clear big picture, not the incomplete, fuzzy 30-year-old data that we're working with today. Two, the historic resources that most need stewardship are not the stately halls of the well-to-do. They are also the homes, churches, fraternal lodges, and storefronts of ethnic and minority communities that have never been recognized or recorded. Historic places that are remarkable for their role in our cultural history have enormous importance for future generations, but we can't save them if we don't know where they are. We can't make good planning decisions or allocate scarce resources intelligently based on assumptions and guesswork. And as you know, the Historic Landmarks Commission has been calling for our grossly out-of-date inventory to be updated ever since Art DeMuro was chairman. Happily, we know now, with the new Goal 5 rule changes, that an inventory does not require owner consent and it does not start us down some sort of a pathway that restricts important new development. And frankly, 80,000 is a paltry amount, but it's a start, so let's please start.
And before you speak, I'd like to call up Community Engagement Liaison Representative Vanya Lucio to speak. And the other two representatives can come up if they'd like in support, Pedro Anlada Corduro and Jonathan Perez. And did you have a couple of others to add, Commissioner?
If I could have Katrina Holland and Chester Heron come to the front.
You can just get in the queue here.
As soon as this group has finished, then these folks will move up and we'll have the chairs right behind for you. You guys, Allison, can you stand up and spin around? Like, make yourself really obvious. Folks, I know that it's kind of hard with all the placards in here to see her, but just remember that there are a lot of people that want to speak, so honor the Time's Up sign, okay?
Good evening. My name is Sharon Miller, and I have volunteered as a personal advocate at Elders in Action for over 8 years, and I'm here this evening to speak on their behalf. My specialty at Elders in Action is helping people resolve issues with public benefits, Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. These are complex, bureaucratic programs that many seniors and people with disabilities need help navigating. I've had clients who have lost all of their monthly income because they did not understand and act on a letter that they received. Clients who are being evicted from a care facility because they had no advocate to help them prove their eligibility to stay. Clients who are denied access to needed care and services because they did not know how to appeal a negative decision. And clients who have had severe medical issues but have lost their Medicare and supplemental insurance because of a technicality that they didn't understand or anticipate. These are common issues that I have been able to help clients resolve and thus improve the quality of their lives. And other personal advocates are out there doing the same. These are critical services that people need. These clients would not be getting the support and intervention they need if Elders in Action did not exist or did not have the resources to operate their programs. And I urge you to consider to fund them at their current level. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Connor Smith, and I'm with DSA. I work at a middle school here in Portland, and I see every day the way austerity politics have damaged this state and this city. My school has no sports teams, no art classes, and the school day ends at 1 o'clock on Wednesdays. The state and local governments have refused to raise adequate revenue to fund vital programs for decades, and now, like clockwork, the city of Portland once again faces a budget shortfall caused by the fear of upsetting their wealthy donors and friends. And yet, Mayor Wheeler claims we somehow have $12.5 million for more killer cops. To fix this budget problem, proposed cuts are aimed at parks, community centers, hiring freezes, and cutting other vital services. City officials claim we simply don't have the money to fund these things, but that is wrong. The money is here. Portland is growing rapidly. Everyone can see their rents rising and property values going up. To say we should even cut 1 penny from our budget in a time when Portland is wealthier than ever is an outrage. There are over 1,000 There are over 1,000 households in Multnomah County that reported incomes of over $1 million per year. Our mayor is one of them, bringing in roughly $1.5 million, $1.5 million a year. And now with the Trump tax cuts in effect, these millionaires will be paying even less taxes. No person earns that much wealth. The working class of this country are the ones that create its wealth. It is time we combat this income inequality at the local level because the Trump administration obviously has no plans to. We need to tax the rich in this city to fund the things we need. Not only should we not cut the budget at all, but we need to raise far more money for things like universal pre-K, public housing, creating publicly owned utilities, and making more good-paying union jobs that make this city run. We need to support children, families, and working people, and not more money for cops to go around harassing and killing people.
Please keep it down.
The people of Portland will no longer sit idly by while our politicians cut our services to appease wealthy individuals and corporations. The wealth is here. No cuts. Tax the rich.
Thank you. Please keep it down. We're going to the next speaker.
Hello, my name is Al Sharif Iskandar. I am owner of Al Sharif Design and Print here in St. John's, where my family and I call it home for over 10 years now, and we love it here in St. John's. So thanks for coming here. I'm here to request that you please fund the small business growth package of amount of $275,000 as one-time allocation for next year. Those programs, as Prosper Portland, PSU Business Outreach, and Accelerate, arms us with the tools and education to get us over challenges and create wealth to underserved entrepreneurs like many of us here in St. John's and Earl Portland. Businesses owned by women and people of color represent a large majority of Portland's small businesses, yet represent the smallest percentage of growth and wealth creation due to significant barriers. Your lead and support is critical to supporting wealth creation in underserved communities through small businesses ownership. And since I have 40 more seconds, please unite us. You are our leader. We need you. We have a lot of divider out there. You are our leader. If we are united, we're not going to need more cops, because cops are all good when we are divided. But when we are united, we are good. So please unite us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Annie Mahoney. I'm a member of the Historic Landmarks Commission. I'm going to read a letter from the Commission regarding PN 03, Build a More Diverse Historic Resource Inventory. The Portland Historic Landmarks Commission wholeheartedly supports the proposed budgetary proposal from the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability add package of $80,000. It is entirely consistent with the city's 2035 comprehensive plan, the 2008-2017 PHLC State of the City reports, and the recently completed report updating the Historic Resources Inventory 2018, outlining the steps to update and add to the nearly 35-year-old Portland Historic Resources Inventory. Allocated funds for this project will enable the city to modernize and expand the HRI for underrepresented historical resources in concert with local communities for resources associated with ethnic, social, and gender themes across the city. Gain a comprehensive understanding of our built environment, aiding decision makers in how and where to prepare for the future. Expand public access to historic resource data, conduct HRI surveys in underrepresented areas, and assist community groups in documenting historic resources such as east of 82nd Avenue in East Portland, and match funds required by certified local government grant received from the State Historic Preservation Office for fiscal year 2018-19. The recommendation from the City Budget Office appears to be ill-informed on the intent and benefits of historic preservation. The stated concerns regarding the potential for limits to housing are short-sighted and inconsistent with findings in the comprehensive plan, and fail to consider perspectives from other urban case studies that convey the exact opposite.
We urge you to support this informational and community building request. Thank you.
And from this group here, let's have Vanya, Katrina, and Chester sit down. And I believe the rest of you are here in support of these speakers. You can go ahead.
My name is Vanya Lucio, and I'm here representing all the beautiful people of color around the city of Portland who have been experiencing not only police brutality, but evictions and all other types of oppressive systems here in the city. But first of all, I want to talk about my experience of eviction that I've had here in North Portland. I was evicted twice. One time last year, but the eviction was rescinded due to the fact that the greedy landlord was afraid and so decided to rescind the evictions. But this year, around October, we received another eviction notice, and this time it was actually a final notice, and we had to evacuate by February 5th. And let me tell you, it was hard to find affordable housing here in the North. The cheapest place that I could find for my family, including my two brothers, my brother who's 7 years old and my other brother who's 13 years old, they were here, like they're here in this community, and we have to pay almost $1,300 for a small 2-bedroom apartment because we cannot afford housing in Portland. Yet, Mr. Wheeler here would like to spend more money on killer cops who are only here to spend money and kill people on the streets, people of color, specifically the black community. Keep it down. So let me tell you this. When I am here, I am talking about using your money and using the bucks that you get into affordable housing and programs and services for people of color in the community of Portland. And I am also here to shout out Community Alliance of Tenants, who were the only ones that were supporting my family and my community during our time of eviction and hardships. And please support the program Protection of Tenants, because they are the only ones, like I said, that were helping us during our eviction, and which, by the way, was the community of all people of color. Thank you.
Thank you. When you make noise while somebody is talking, it's really hard to hear the important words they're saying. Go ahead, please.
Okay. Hi, my name is Katrina Holland. I currently serve as Executive Director of Community Alliance of Tenants. I'm here to represent Community Alliance of Tenants, Self-Enhancement Incorporated, Immigrant Refugee Community Organization, Asian Pacific American Network of Oregon, and Legal Aid Services of Oregon, who for the last 2 years have put together a program called the Tenant Protections Team that has literally kept families off the streets. And so we are asking City Council to please prioritize preventing evictions and homelessness. I have a story here from one of our tenants. She's decided that she wants to remain anonymous. I'm someone who has received help from the Tenant Protections Program, and this support has helped me financially. CAT, through the TPT program, was able to provide me a lawyer I could speak with at no charge to me. This is thanks to Daisy, who works at CAT, the TPT coordinator at ERCO, and was able to help me in my language. She was able to inform me of what my rights are as a renter regarding a past tenancy within which we had a lot of issues. In my past rental, I had to deal with an ongoing mice issue for the last 10 months of my tenancy. From my knowledge, mice had infested the entire building. I repeatedly requested management to resolve the issue, but all they would do is send maintenance staff and lay out mice traps. There were mice in our cupboards, our food, our dressers, clothes, and I could hear them in the walls. It exacerbated my 15-year-old daughter's mental health struggles. If she heard mice in the kitchen, she would refuse to eat, and this would sometimes go on for days at a time. I missed days of work in order to try to stay home to deal with the mice problem and to be there for my daughter. Thanks to Daisy, we were able to connect with a lawyer who provided us with legal counsel. With the lawyer's advice, we took our previous landlord to small claims court and we won the case, representing ourselves. Today, I am thankful that CAT was put in our path and that there are these people who are able to help us without asking for anything in return. We didn't truly know we had rights as renters prior to this. The tenant protection team help us to fight back, and we agree that the rental services program, rental registration, should fund it, but those revenues won't be realized for at least 18 to 24 months according to the Housing Bureau's estimation, so we are requesting fully funded services for the next year or two. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to call up the next 4 lottery numbers to take a seat here. 597, 778, 501, and 885. And now I'm going to call off a list of the groups that we have heard from. And if we haven't heard from your group, please pick a representative and see Jean so that we can try to get all the groups heard from. So we believe we've heard from the Historic Resources Landmark Commission, the Children's Museum, Locally Grown, Fulton Park, Fund Our Parks, Care Not Cops, the Democratic Socialists, Save. I believe there were 2 people from Democratic Socialists. Okay. Then please pick a representative. Save Our Centers, Elders in Action, East Portland Action Plan, Support Small Businesses, Save Our Fountains, Multnomah Youth Commission, Portland Tenants Program, and Community Alliance of Tenants.
So who's left? We're Chester and Andrea from VOS. Go ahead. Care Not Cops. Hi, my name is Andrea, and I'm here with Chester from VOS, Workers' Rights Education Project. VOS is a worker-led organization that empowers Portland day laborers through economic empowerment, leadership development, and community organizing around workers' rights and immigrant rights. And we want to thank the city for your partnership with VOS since we've opened the MLK Junior Worker Center, which we've operated since 2008. And we're here today to ask for support for the increase of just $17,000 to help us hire a full-time workforce development coordinator. Culturally specific workforce development programs are one of the most important programs that VOS provides, and because of these services, we've been able to increase the minimum wage earned at the center from $8 to $15 while we've been open. And last year, over 500 workers came through the MLK Junior Worker Center, and they earned almost $500,000 in wages. So this is such an important community program, and we've got Chester Herron, our day labor president, here to speak on behalf as well.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Chester Herron, and I'm the president of VOS VOZ Workforce Center on MLK. And I've been coming there for like a year and a half now, going on 2 years now. And this is a very important program. What I like about VOC, we give everybody an opportunity. Everybody's equals there. So we just try to just grow a little better, get better bigger workspace and stuff. So yeah, we are increasing a lot. So thank you all for having us tonight. And we're going to continue on to grow and make the work safe better and stuff. So thank you all.
All right, hello, my name is Julia DeGraw, and I'm a city council candidate for position 2, and I live in the Montevilla neighborhood east of 82nd Avenue. I love living in Montevilla. My grandparents lived in Montevilla, and they babysat my brother and I every summer while my parents went to work. My brother and I would ride our bikes around on unpaved, potholed roads near my grandparents' house, and we thought it was really fun. We called it off-roading. But now I'm in my mid-30s, and those same roads are still unpaved, and the house that I live in is surrounded by streets with no sidewalks and often without lights. This lack of investment in the east side of our city shows, and during this economic boom time, there's no excuse for threatening to cut services. Threatening to close community centers and forcing communities to fight for them and deciding not to close them after all is a terrible process. It also ignores the fact that the city should be finding ways to invest more, not less, in our communities, which means making sure existing funds go to programs that best serve the people and finding additional sources of revenue. We should generate that additional revenue from those who are benefiting the most from our booming economy. This is why I'm announcing the details of my new basic rights and social services tax proposal called the brass tax. Tomorrow morning, the brass tax will raise revenue from the wealthiest households and businesses to pay for important social programs that benefit Portlanders. Trickle-down economics has never worked, and the Trump tax cuts are no exception. They are only an extension of a decades-long effort to transfer our nation's wealth from the working and middle class to the rich. Progressive cities like Portland can and must do better. The only thing missing is political will, and that ends now. I want to invite everyone in the room to join my campaign tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. if you can. I know it's a hard time. In downtown, in front of the Wells Fargo on Southwest 5th Avenue to reveal the brass tax. It's clear the people of the city deserve bold new leadership to address our biggest problems, and we can no longer wait for the slow change politics of our current political system.
My name is Jenny Lee. I am a Portland resident and the Advocacy Director for the Coalition of Communities of Color. This evening, I am here representing a coalition of dozens of community-based organizations to ask you to fully fund the Open and Accountable Elections Small Donor Matching Program in the budget. The city passed open and accountable elections in 2016 based on the idea that our city is stronger when everyone has an equal say and greater opportunity to engage in our democracy, whether by running for office to represent their own communities or bringing their perspectives forward on the policies that impact us all. That is as true today as it was then. The city faces many challenges that would all benefit from a more inclusive, participatory democracy. Open and accountable elections are especially critical for amplifying the voices of communities of color, immigrants, and refugees who face some of the greatest structural barriers to building wealth. Just as importantly, we believe that open and accountable elections will empower a more diverse pool of talented candidates to run for office, regardless of their connections to wealthy donors. Right now, we are at a critical juncture. Fully funding open and accountable elections in this budget cycle is absolutely necessary to ensure that we have the program up and running in time for candidates to use it in the 2020 election cycle. This is especially important because City Council failed to fully fund the program last year. When City Council approved this program, they made a commitment to balancing our elections so that everyday Portlanders have just as much say in our democracy as do wealthy donors and special interests. I urge you to follow through on that commitment and fully fund open and accountable elections so that together we can achieve a more equitable and inclusive democracy. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Judy Brennis. I'm a resident of the Arbor Lodge neighborhood, and I am a volunteer at the Peninsula Park Rose Garden. As a park volunteer, I am asking you, the city, to stop the decade-long practice of cutting our public parks funding. We all know how important parks are, not just as venues for celebrations or to promote tourism, but they are a major cornerstone of what brings our citizens a sense of community and a place. Parks contribute enormously to the health of our population. As a Portland resident, I am in a park or a rose garden weekly around the year, and here's what I see. I see people of all ages, diversities, and income ranges. I see that some come for recreation, some come in wheelchairs, some bring friends and families from near and afar. Some use the parks for childcare, some use the parks for classes, and you can tell by observing that many use the parks as a refuge. Portland is incredibly lucky to have an immense network of volunteers who contribute to the care of our parks. But it is not our job alone. And the proposed budget cuts again this year will only add to the current backlog of over $400 million in deferred maintenance across this system. Even with the strong growth in population and revenue that Portland is experiencing, the city continues to target parks for cuts that are disproportionately higher than for other bureaus. Years of reduced funding and putting our priceless parks and green spaces at risk. As a volunteer, I am ready to help make the city's investment in parks pay off. But for those of us who spend hours working in the parks, we need to know that we have a committed partner in you. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Laura Vanderlyn. I used to go a lot to City Hall. I no longer go because you are kind of scary. Every single time there's a little bit of tension in City Hall, you guys are quick to call the police. And I do really understand why you want more money for the police. I really do. Because they help you. They help the rich white man.
Thank you.
They really do. There's no sanctuary in Portland. There's no sanctuary anywhere, except the only sanctuary that I see that we have sanctuary insured for is rich white men. Misogyny is real. Misogyny exists and is entrenched in every institution in our government, in schools, in government offices, even civil rights attorneys like Nick Fish. Nick Fish, you practice blocking and muting people on social media. And I've asked you for over a year why it is that you've blocked me and you refuse to answer me. You refuse to answer me in person. You refuse to answer me in my emails. You don't value my time or my tax money. My time is money. Your staff, you're paying them, and they were very hostile and scary to me when I went to your office. I do understand why you want more police.
Okay.
I would like to have the rest of my time. Please don't interrupt me. I'll be done in my 2 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. So as you guys can see, there are a number more people that still want to talk, and we can't accommodate everybody. So if you be quiet, we'll get to them. Help me. Okay, so you guys, at this point, we've got the Micro Enterprise Services of Oregon, Latino Network, Care Not Cops, and if each of you could have one person come up, and Naya, where's Naya? There we go. Naya. I'm sorry, thank you. I always read it, I don't say it. Okay, so do we have Care Not Cops? Yes? Okay, so we need one speaker from each.
Last time we had 2 speakers allowed.
Pardon?
We've been giving up our tickets because we wanted to only keep it to 2.
Well,
we've had them called earlier.
Oh, from numbers
Yes,
you didn't take?
we didn't take.
I wish you'd told me, because we're timing this now. Okay, so Latino Network, there you are. So you'll take the next seat. And ma'am, who are you representing?
Micro Enterprise.
Oh, you're the Micro Enterprise.
Yes.
Great. Okay. So folks, while these guys are coming in, I just want to say real quickly in terms of the comment board, some of the key things we've been hearing are what you've been hearing at the table: concerns about increase in police violence, advocacy for mental health, concern for affordable housing, support services and transit, taxing the rich, and the community centers. One of the comments being they're easy to lose, so they're really hard to restore. So, go.
Okay. Hello, my name is Corey Lira, and I'm a longtime resident of Northeast Portland and a Portland native. I'm here today as a queer, chronically sick, Chicana Indigenous woman and a mental health service user. And I'm speaking today on the issue of increasing the police budget and as part of Care Not Cops mental health care, not policing. I understand we live in a time that questions the role and impact of police in our communities. I also know it's easy to disregard this anti-police fervor as a flashpoint or as irrational. Yet I challenge those unwilling to hear these critiques as being complacent in white supremacy. And I deplore you to consider the way in which we hold on to systems we feel we must maintain, and instead consider the vibrancy in our community that could be if we redirected this $12.7 million slated to policing and surveillance, and instead invest those funds into housing, food access, mental health services, and education. The system is not broken and just needs to be fixed. The system works as designed to cage, control, separate families. The system of policing is inherently anti-Black and anti-people. It is time Portland takes a stand and shows our community that we believe in real community self-determination and will not continue to dump our funds into increased policing of our most vulnerable communities. I want to note, too, that my brother is a police officer. I share this to contextualize that I can both love my brother and absolutely believe that he's an agent of white supremacy and advocate for the abolition of the police and the prison industrial complex. And instead advocate for the investment in life-affirming resources. Policing can never be a life-affirming resource. There is no amount of gadgets, training, or reforms that will make police life-affirming. If you want to ensure that every program in this room stays funded, you already have a $217 million police budget, not even including this 12.7 proposed budget increase to draw from. $217 million already that you could be funding everyone in this room. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Nikki, and I am here as a mental health worker in the community of Portland. This is an opportunity for you to be a part of intentional change, to reduce funding for a system created on white supremacy, to abolish it entirely. This foundation, which continues to stomp on our folks and kill our community members, reduce our lives to mere statistics that continually are discussed but never commit to creating an alternative. Cops will never provide adequate mental health care, ever. Cops respond to crime, creating a shortcut to blame the victim because now having a mental health emergency or experience becomes a crime for cops to respond to. This is not appropriate. It's not appropriate. And many are having these experiences. This is not a way to continue to go as a city. We're causing harm. This is an opportunity to be a part of intentional change. Cops enter our spaces trained to identify threats. This is not okay. It cannot continue. We will not continue to die for this to continue. Fund CARE with that $12.7 million increase. Fund CARE, not cops. We have invited you, all of you, to our event that we're having on May 5th as a forum to discuss how we can envision a community of safety. You've been invited. We hope you attend and listen to your community.
Hello, I'm a small business owner, and since we're giving away $12.7 million to the police, how about we fund some of the small business communities so that we could be able to help other communities, since our middle class uses most of our money to help the middle class people anyway. I work for Devotional Care Staffing. It's my company, and MISO, World Micro Entertainment. They help with some of the funding and some of the lawyer fees and stuff that we need. They're a great program. They're very caring. They help where small businesses can't afford it, such as lawyer fees, such as loans that we need. Help with strategies for staffing. They have been really great to my company. They are a nonprofit organization, and they can use the funding. I really enjoy them. I have a family, and I pay for my kids to go to college. I don't ask for hand-me-outs from the city of Portland or from anywhere. I'm a single parent. And I pay for my children's college with my small business. With the help of Micro Enterprise, they also help a whole lot with trying to get me to where I need to grow in my company. And there's a lot of nonprofit organizations that help with business owners. and they need funding. So that's pretty much it.
I'm gonna take the other minute. Oh, okay. No, I'm with her. So I'm gonna give 1 minute and I'm gonna be real quiet. Now, Mayor, I thank y'all for letting us be here real quick. I'm here to represent micro enterprise services, small business owner, Big Body's Towing. Now, we talking about generational wealth for everybody. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to have to go back to the table. Y'all go back to the table. This is unacceptable. So
just because everybody else only has one
all right,
speaker
well, I didn't say what I had to say. Y'all go back to the table with that.
Good evening, Mayor Wheeler and council members. My name is Alicia Bigback. I'm a member of the Northern Cheyenne Tribe. I am currently the foster care support manager at NAYA Family Center. The Native American Youth and Family Center was founded by parents and elders volunteering in 1974 in Portland and strive to enhance the diverse strengths of our youth and families in partnership with the community through cultural identity and education. The Portland region is home to a population that serves over 384 federally recognized tribes. Each time the people in Portland vote for the Portland Children's Levy, we appreciate the opportunity to work with the City of Portland to provide culturally specific services to our youth. And part of that funding supports the program that I manage, which is the foster care support. I believe that the funding helps us to support our most vulnerable, which is the foster youth within the city, and help to connect them to culturally specific services at NAYA. A number of programs there, including the one that I manage, are the homeownership program. I do want to touch on the fact that I have grown up within the city of Portland, and it is services like NAYA's that help me to grow and go to college and to be able to access the services. I was part of the homeownership support at NAYA Family Center and was able to purchase my own home, which was a lifelong dream of mine growing up within the city of Portland. And so it's services like that that help our communities of color and help us to continue passing that on. The NAYA Family Center urges the council to support the current service level funding as funding for culturally specific services, which is critical to support Portland's equity goals. Tonight, we ask that you maintain current service level funding for our homeownership program and the other funding programs that the city funds. Thank you, and I appreciate your time.
Latino Network.
Mr. Mayor, members of the commission, for the record, my name is Amanda Manjares, and I am the Advocacy Director at Latino Network. I'm here on behalf of our organization to ask you to invest in a universal representation program with community navigators. We're also strongly supportive of our partners at CAT and Affordable Housing, Youth Pass, Open and Accountable Elections, so appreciate all of the advocates here today. Latino Network is a Latino-led, Latino-serving social service provider in the city of Portland. Each year, we serve over 7,000 families, providing access to culturally specific education, early childhood services, family stability services, wraparound support to at-risk and gang-affiliated youth. We also provide arts and culture programs because we have incredible pride in our cultural heritage and community identity. Since the 2016 elections, our communities have been under attack. The culture of fear is pervasive. Culturally specific organizations have had to step up our efforts to address the safety and crisis preparedness of our staff, our clients, program participants, partners, community residents at large. This has been achieved through a combination of training frontline staff to address, mediate, and respond to new realities and discrimination. We've also seen it all. Parents quitting jobs and respond to ICE raids, asking us to take care of their children if they're deported because they have nowhere else to turn. Families are afraid to drop off their children at school. Students are worrying about what will happen to their families if ICE shows up. Not to mention the bullying, hate speech, and anti-immigrant sentiment in the community. To respond to the need, we've been forced to quickly realign organizational policy and resources to create tools and resources, as well as staff capacity to confront anti-immigrant and refugee-related speech actions, develop new partnerships, provide legal services, and pursue additional opportunities to fund these resources long-term.
What was once anticipated to be a short-term response has turned into a long-term adjustment where we've had to adjust our service delivery models without any added resources. Now the opportunity is in your hands. Our initial work has been to conduct rapid response to events as they unfold, which is not funded. The Universal Representation Program is an opportunity for the City of Portland to invest in a sustainable solution to an urgent community need. Latino Network, ERCO, El Programa Hispano, and our partners at the Oregon Ready Coalition have provided you a proposal to fund universal representation. We are requesting an immigrant and refugee support navigator to be included that would intake legal requests and refer them to immigration lawyers when faced with arrest, detention, and deportation, and triage family support. If the City of Portland is truly invested in partnering with us to ensure our community members are safe, supported, and given the opportunity to live their lives here and thrive in this community, we urge you to invest in this important program. Thank you.
You guys, you're doing a great job trying to get to the end here, and we have four remaining speakers, and I was hoping to get to the last four of the lottery, but I don't think we're going to get there. No, so we've got the Oregon Justice Resource Center, Youth Environmental Justice, Green Hop. I don't see you guys up here. Did Green Hop go? Oh, and the East Portland Neighborhood Office. And hopefully that's, and Marianne. So that's 5. So you guys be as efficient as you can. You guys give them as little time between speakers as possible. So go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor. Okay. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Jonas. I represent Ethiopian and Eritrean, East African and African refugee and immigrants. So when I think of my original country, Ethiopia, and my new country, USA, Oregon, or Portland, there are 2 things I'm thinking. One is coffee, which Oregon love coffee, Portland coffee, and Ethiopians are the one who originated coffee, introduced coffee to the world. The second thing is Portland, Oregon love like organic garden. Ethiopians are farmers by tradition, by culture. So I'm here to appreciate and also to support fund for East Portland neighborhood because I was thinking to help or serve my community to integrate with American culture. So I just decided to have a community garden and I didn't know where to find a little money. So I heard about East Portland neighborhood and I just applied. It's a small grant. It really impacts a lot. We come together every Saturday. We learn like gardening because the weather is totally different. The soil is different. The gardening technique is different. That's also a social gathering for us. We are really happy. So please support funding IPNO because it really helps for small grants for small projects. Here are also different community, underrepresented community, but they also do a lot of cultural and other stuff. Do I have 10 seconds? No. Okay, if I have 10 seconds, I also appreciate the work CATS are doing, Community of Alliance of Tenants. They are really educating my community to understand our rights and responsibility. Also, they advocate for our community if there is any problem with the tenants and landlords. Thank you so much.
And Yeja, go ahead, please. Yeja, representative, please go ahead.
Before I begin, I would like to emphasize that more cops in our communities does not make us safer. Hi, and thank you for having me speak here today. My name is Adriana Benitez. I am a member of a group called YEJA, Youth Environmental Justice Alliance. I'm a sophomore here at Roosevelt High School. The reason why I'm here is to talk to you about the continuation for funding of Youth Path program at the city level until TriMet steps up to fund this program fully. When I first received Youth Pass at the beginning of the school year, I was glad for it because it gave me the opportunity to do more after-school activities, to get a job and not have to worry about how I'm going to get home or if I have enough change for the bus. There are times when Youth Pass really helped me out in situations such as missing the yellow bus to school or being able to take TriMet when the yellow buses are too full, a reality for students here at Roosevelt High. In the past, there are some rare occasions where I overslept on a school day and panic on how I'm supposed to get to school before first period ended. I would use TriMet to get to school in case that were to happen, but not have the proper change for it, so I would sometimes be forced to overpay for my bus ticket. Youth Pass saves me and my family money. With this personal story in mind, I am not the only one that experiences this kind of situation or something else similar. Many students at my school rely on Youth Pass. I urge you to keep Youth Pass in the budget or even expand it to other students who need it until TriMet steps up to keep the programs sustainable. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And Oregon Resource Justice Center.
Good evening. I'm Kate Gonzalez from the Oregon Justice Resource Center. Tonight, as you weigh budget priorities, it's time to ask ourselves why so many Oregonians, especially Oregonians of color, are being arrested and churning in and out of our local jails despite decades of declining crime rates. In a city with shelters and treatment programs at capacity, city residents increasingly question if additional police staffing is the smartest and most humane use of limited taxpayer dollars. Too often, these vulnerable populations are cycling through the streets to our emergency rooms, to our jails, and we really must do better. This tremendous cost, this human and fiscal cost, is not confined to the jail cells. It's also reflected in funds being directed away from community supports, from youth passes and community centers, from universal representation, and all of the other groups here in this room. So across the river, Multnomah County elected officials have really made notable progress in decreasing our reliance on incarceration by shuttering jail dorms, and drastically expanding our policing presence right now might put that progress in jeopardy and put those goals at cross purposes. So moving forward in 2019 budget, we're asking that additional funding be supplied for smarter approaches to really decrease our reliance on incarceration, including programs like lead and harm reduction programs that are pre-booking diversion programs, but also support such as the Office of Neighborhood Involvement's request that 1/3 of the cannabis tax revenue be used to support equity initiatives aimed at strengthening small business and restorative justice initiatives. In doing so, we can begin to more effectively address root causes of crime, such as investing in drug treatment and mental health services outside of the criminal justice system. For these reasons, in the year ahead, we urge you to continue to prioritize and expand funding for harm reduction, diversion programs, and forward-thinking alternatives and community supports that more effectively address root causes. Thank you.
I have some handouts for you guys, but my name is Nicole Kennedy. I'm a product of this community. I was born here, raised here. I'm a nurse, I'm a teacher, and I'm also a single mother of 3. I represent less than 1% of Black dispensary owners in the nation. However, I represent 40% of Blacks who are incarcerated. Green Hop's Cannabis Workforce Incubator Program is a pilot project that is working to diversify the whitewashed cannabis industry. We are dedicated to educating communities of color as well as training those interested in the industry. This is yet another industry that we have been shut out of. I could not sit quietly while my brothers and sisters are doing time in jail for offenses that were once illegal but are now legalized. Now they can't get a job in an industry that has worked so hard to put them into jail, and we're being pushed out of that same industry that we obviously were a part of before it was even legalized. Funding Green Hop's incubator program will change lives and have a positive impact on the community that has suffered so much. Take your time. Yes, thank you. It is time to make investments in programs dedicated to increasing diversity, wealth creation, independence, and restoration for wrongs that have been committed. If the budget is about having equity, then I ask that you fund our program and help us diversify the cannabis industry. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm sorry I'm a late comer here, but I'm also a caretaker, and I used Google to find this place. It took me an hour. I didn't know Freddy's had 2 stores on Lombard, so that's my excuse. So we'll tell the attendance secretary that. My name is Marianne Schwab, and I'm here to talk about the open and accountable elections. I think the time has come that we all pay close attention and to do it and do it right. None of the shenanigans like arts in the schools being retro and no sunset and people that can't pay. We don't want that again. We need to do it right. And to do that, in this budget, we need 2 people to do it right and work in tandem with those of us that have been down this road, including Commissioner Amanda Fritz and including Commissioner Chloe. These people made it. I want you to know that years ago I went out collecting signatures. For every signature, you got $5. Well, one of our candidates didn't realize that at that time, if you got on a bus, people want your signature to get whatever on the ballot. They got paid $1. So she didn't make the connection that she just couldn't pay somebody to collect these signatures and afford signatures. And that was the biggest downfall for the system, and that's why it failed. So I'm here today to tell you a story about Martha Pellegrino. In the Office of Governmental Affairs, felt that she was in dire need of secretary support in the Capitol. And she repeated how her budget was like the flea on the tail of an elephant. Now they tell me. I'm starting over. People were going on and on.
There are so many people see this box. These are all the people that didn't get a chance to speak.
Yes, we need more police. And yes, I support 24/7 residential care. And yes, we need, but we also need them to be trained and sensitive and compassionate.
So you guys, I know this has been really difficult, and I really appreciate the efforts you've made, and I've heard you try. I do want to point out, we made it through about 45 speakers tonight, but as you can see, there are a ton that didn't. Please write down your comments because the council really does want and need to hear from you. And we will, of course, also be taking photos of the picture of the comment wall. So thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you, everybody. I just want to let you know what the process is going forward. Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you. It's okay. Thank you for your understanding. I appreciate it. Go ahead.
Come back. Some people back here who are dying to speak and folks out there who are dying to speak, you guys.
Come back. Come back. Come back. Come back. Come back. Don't go.
I appreciate you guys letting me speak.
Here, let's do this, okay? 1 minute, okay? 1 minute? No, 2 minutes, just like the white people got. I'm sorry. Just go. Sir, this gentleman had his number up and has been waiting and was not going to be able to speak. So 1 minute for you and 1 minute for you, sir, and then we'll call it quits.
I just really want to speak up right now. I've personally been affected by the fact that Portland is not hiring blacks. And in the cannabis community, they are definitely not hiring minorities, not just blacks, but other underrepresented minority groups. I want to speak today because there is some cannabis tax allocation money that has come about. And I want to make sure that we're using that money to get the new business owners educated. So in communication and in diversity trainings, so that way they can start to stop being scared to hire people outside of their boxes. We need to use this money to help create a workforce and a stronger community. Green Hop is a place where we are creating an experience for people, young people, not just people of color, but also the youth that are coming up in this industry, so we can educate them and get them into this workforce and get them up on the knowledge, because we want to be a part of the things that grow around us in our community, right? So if we've got all these shops popping up everywhere, we want to learn about it too and be a part of it. We don't want to be outed from it. And I just want to, and I look forward to talking to you guys, hopefully on another level where people aren't yelling and screaming, because I really want it to be clear that the money needs to be budgeted and minorities need to be represented in this budget of tax allocation. We need to make sure that the minority-based owners are getting this money so they can help create spaces for people of color to feel welcome. Because today, when you walk into a dispensary, you don't see anyone of color, and they're hiring one minority by quota, and we need to change that.
Thank you. 30 seconds. 30 seconds. Police ignored a black woman who was terrorized by a white supremacist who the next day killed 2 men in 2 terrorist acts in 24 hours. Police ignored citizens who called police when a white male was caught, released, and drove away with no license. Hours later, he killed a pregnant woman, and the lawsuit was $9 million. 2 acts, 24 hours. Your choices are wasting our money, our lives, your choices. Your choices are causing the houseless problems. Now you want more of the same police under federal investigation? Some politicians change, you know. 2 years ago, I sat in the Charles Jordan Community Center here in North Portland, and my lawmaker told the crowd she did not support rent control. When my ticket was called, I thought this was futile. I was wrong. For one reason or another, Tina Kotek changed. You don't change. You, Mayor Wheeler, you, Commissioner Fritz, you, Nick Fish. This is our money, our lives, our budget. You can tax the rich, you won't. In 2004, there was an emergency local tax only on people making moderate or high income. We need the return of the famous I-tax for the rich. Care not cops, tax the rich.
All right, thanks, folks. We're done.
And I have the ticket. So I work serving students who are affected by chronic absenteeism. I work serving this community in the St. John's area. I work in all the elementary schools who are in this area. And I can tell you, based on district data, the main reason for chronic absenteeism is homelessness, home stability, mental health issues. We are really struggling to really bring those families together, to bring them to school. There are a number of families who in the last several years have been displaced from this area due to gentrification, due to high rent increases, and I am working with those families. And those families currently are commuting all the way from Gresham and all other places from the city, and that's the only way they are trying to maintain a community, a sense of community. So I asking you to be very mindful in funding adequately services that are related to home stability, homelessness, mental health. We are a number of families and students who we cannot really refer anywhere unless they go to all the organizations that we already know in the cities, and they are overwhelmed with the amount of referrals they have. So I do ask you to please, if you, I know your proposal about increasing law enforcement hiring is based on a theme or subject of safety. If you are concerned about safety, please fund services related to families and health, and you will keep a city healthy and safe, because inadequate funding for law enforcement will end up exerting too much oppression on those families who are lacking services right now. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you. I want to thank everybody who testified tonight. I thought the testimony was outstanding, and I appreciated the thoughtfulness that people put into it. So the process going forward, my budget, which is called the proposed budget, comes to the City Council first. That will happen on the 30th of this month, and that will be made public. You'll see it. It will take into account much of what you've heard tonight. If you're making any assumptions at all, about what is in that budget, you're probably mistaken. So expect to wait and see what that is, and I know we'll have more opportunities for input, and I want to thank my colleagues for being here tonight, but most importantly for all of you who took time out of your evening to be here tonight. We all appreciate it very much. Thanks to you. Appreciate it.
So I guess I just want to say thank you to everybody who came out. I don't support the cuts in the parks budget. I really appreciate everybody who came to talk about those. I really appreciate the cannabis tax advocacy. That was what the intent of our cannabis tax was to provide restorative justice and training and opportunities for minority-owned businesses. So I very much appreciate that people came to talk about that. Obviously, there's a lot of things in the budget, and to me, the main thing is we need more revenue. And I particularly appreciate this is my 10th year on the council, and there's only so much that you can do to trim and trim and trim. And then what will be happening in the next 20 years is somebody will say, well, why didn't they maintain these, fill in the blank, like the community centres? So we need to have that conversation. We need to figure out what do we want to pay for and how do we want to pay for it. Thank you very much for coming.
All right,
And
thanks,
thank
everyone.
you to our moderators and to Open Signal over here. Thanks to everybody who worked on the logistics for this. Thank you.
And reminder.